Ladies and gentlemen, life's greatest battles are not fought with other people. They are fought within the silent chambers of your own soul. The fiercest war you will ever face is not the conflict between you and another, but the war between your peace and your panic, between your confidence and your confusion, between your identity and your insecurity. Every day, every moment, a war is being fought not outside of you, but inside your mind. And until you win that battle within, every victory outside will feel temporary. The storms of life do not destroy ships because of the water around them. They sink when the water gets inside. And so it is with the human spirit. It is not what happens to you that destroys you, but what you allow to enter you. Today, I want to talk to you about one of the most painful yet most revealing moments in life. The moment when someone pulls away from you. When someone you trusted becomes distant. When the warmth turns cold. When connection becomes silence. And I want to show you that this moment, this painful separation, is not always rejection. It is often revelation. Because how you respond when others withdraw reveals the condition of your own heart. It exposes whether you are led by purpose or by emotion, by conviction or by confusion. The truth is this: when people pull away, you are being tested not in your ability to chase them, but in your ability to lead yourself. The greatest form of leadership is self-leadership. And the first domain of leadership is your inner world. You cannot govern others until you can govern yourself. You cannot influence peace until you have mastered your own. Dominion begins not with territory, not with titles, not with crowds. It begins in the private discipline of your mind. If your emotions control you, you have no authority in life. If people can trigger you, silence you, or steer your joy, you are not leading, you are being led. You are being ruled by reaction instead of guided by revelation. You see, true freedom is not the absence of people who hurt you. True freedom is the ability to stay steady when others change toward you. It is the calm that says, you can leave, but my peace stays. Because peace is not a gift from people, it is a fruit of discipline. That's why the philosopher Epictetus once said, no man is free who is not master of himself. Freedom is not found in independence. It is found in inner control. And so, my friends, I want you to understand, when people pull away, when relationships shift, when communication stops, you are not losing power. You are being given an opportunity to claim it. For power is not in pursuit, it is in poise. The test of maturity is not how quickly you can run after someone who withdraws, but how calmly you can stand when they do. Your reaction reveals your dependence. If their absence breaks your identity, it means they were holding a place in your soul that only God should hold. Sometimes God allows people to distance themselves not to hurt you, but to help you. He allows silence to show you where your security has been misplaced. Listen to me carefully. When people pull away, don't chase their footsteps. Study your heart. Ask yourself, why does this hurt so much? What am I depending on? Whose approval am I addicted to? Because the moment you begin to answer those questions honestly, you begin to take back the steering wheel of your life. Remember this: leadership is not tested in comfort, it is proven in crisis. Anyone can smile when loved, but it takes mastery to stay peaceful when ignored. The calm mind is not weakness, it is wisdom. For only those who have mastered their emotions can manage their destiny. So today, I invite you to shift your focus. Stop trying to control people and start mastering your peace. Because until you master yourself, every relationship will become a reflection of your chaos. But when you find peace within, every situation becomes an opportunity to demonstrate power. This is where true dominion begins. not over the world, not over others, but over yourself. And in this teaching, we will learn how to do exactly that. How to stay calm when others retreat, how to keep your power when people withdraw, how to lead your emotions instead of letting them lead you. Because the greatest victory you will ever win is victory over yourself. My friends, when someone pulls away from you, the first instinct of the human soul is to chase. Because the human heart was designed for connection. But when that desire for connection becomes dependency, what was meant to be a gift becomes a chain. The need to be needed, the craving to be seen, the fear of being forgotten, these are the invisible prisons that keep even strong men weak and wise women silent. But I want you to hear me carefully. Not every departure is rejection. Some are graduations. Some people are not walking away from you. They are walking out of your season. And when you learn to discern the difference, you stop bleeding where you should be learning. Every withdrawal in your life has a purpose. It reveals something about them, yes, but more importantly, it reveals something about you. When someone distances themselves and your peace collapses, it exposes that your identity was anchored in their attention, not in your assignment. The pull away doesn't break you. It exposes where you were already broken. You see, there are moments when God will use absence as an instrument of awakening. He removes noise so that you can hear his voice again. When the crowd thins, your calling becomes clearer. Sometimes he subtracts company to multiply clarity, because you cannot hear divine direction when you are busy chasing human validation. So don't curse the distance. Study it. Distance is a mirror that reflects your maturity. It shows whether your emotions are leading your life or your principles are. The test of growth is how well you can handle separation without surrendering your peace. You must understand this principle. Dependency breeds distortion. When you depend on others for affirmation, your perception becomes warped. You start to interpret silence as insult, absence as abandonment, and disagreement as betrayal. But that's not reality. That's your insecurity speaking louder than truth. Hear me today. You were never created to find your worth in another person. You were created to reflect your Creator. And when you forget that, you start worshiping people in the place of God. You give them control over your emotions, your time, your sleep, and your self-image, and then you wonder why peace is missing. Some people pull away because your growth has outpaced their comfort. You stop speaking their language. You began to think bigger, dream deeper, live differently, and they could not handle the new version of you. Growth exposes incompatibility. Do not chase those who are intimidated by your evolution. Others withdraw not because they dislike you, but because they don't understand you. Destiny often makes you misunderstood. People interpret silence as pride, confidence as arrogance, focus as distance, but none of that is true. You are simply realigning to purpose. So stop mourning what left. You cannot enter your future holding on to yesterday's comfort. If someone's absence breaks your balance, that means you built your foundation on them. And God loves you too much to let your foundation rest on a person who can change their mind. Listen, sometimes God will allow people to walk away so that your focus can walk back home. Sometimes he lets someone ignore you so that you can finally attend to yourself. Sometimes he closes one conversation so you can finally hear the one happening within. When someone pulls away, it's not always a punishment. It can be a promotion, a test of leadership. The question is not why did they leave? The real question is, what will I learn now that they're gone? Because the way you interpret withdrawal determines your future. If you see it as rejection, you'll react with bitterness. If you see it as revelation, you'll respond with wisdom. Reaction drains energy. Revelation produces growth. One makes you weaker, the other makes you wiser. So my friends, let this truth settle deep in your heart. You are not defined by who stays or who leaves. You are defined by what remains when everyone is gone. If your peace, your purpose, your discipline, and your faith remain, then you have lost nothing. Because the presence of peace is more valuable than the presence of people. So when they pull away, stay calm. Don't run. Don't beg. Don't panic. Let silence speak. Let distance do its work. Because sometimes what looks like loss is the very thing preserving your leadership. And when you learn this truth, you will never again fear who leaves, because you'll know that what's meant for you cannot walk away from you. And that, my friends, is the beginning of mastery, not over relationships, but over yourself. My friends, before you ever attach yourself to anyone, before you give your loyalty, your trust, your energy, you must first know who you are. Because if you do not know your identity, every relationship will become an experiment in confusion. You will keep searching for yourself in the reflections of others who are just as lost as you are. Listen carefully. When you do not define who you are, people will define it for you. And the tragedy is they will always define you by their needs, not by your purpose. If you allow others to write your worth, you will live your life editing their opinions instead of fulfilling your mission. So when you attach before identity, you build connection on emptiness. You begin to demand from people what only clarity can provide. You want them to give you meaning. You want them to give you direction. You want them to give you peace. But they cannot give what they do not own. People can affirm you for a moment, but only truth can anchor you forever. You were never created to perform for acceptance. You were created to express your assignment. That is why your value does not decrease when people stop applauding. The applause never made you valuable. It only revealed who could recognize your value. Remember this principle. When purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. Drifting hearts are always in danger of misuse. When you don't know your purpose, you'll tolerate anything that promises belonging. You'll call manipulation love. You'll call distraction destiny. You'll call attention affection. But none of it is real. It's counterfeit comfort. You cannot build meaningful connection from confusion. Two broken identities do not create wholeness, they create dependency. That's why many relationships fail. Not because love is absent, but because identity is missing. If you don't know your own name and destiny, you will lose it trying to answer to someone else's expectations. Hear this truth. Before God gave Adam Eve, he gave Adam work. He gave him responsibility. He gave him purpose. Identity came before intimacy. Assignment came before attachment. Why? Because love cannot fulfill what purpose has not defined. Relationship is meant to complement identity, not complete it. So when you attach before identity, you build connection on emptiness. You begin to demand from people what only clarity can provide. You want them to give you meaning. You want them to give you direction. You want them to give you peace. But they cannot give what they do not own. People can affirm you for a moment, but only truth can anchor you forever. That is why emotional dependence is so dangerous. It makes you vulnerable to manipulation. When you do not know your value, you will let anyone decide your price. And the tragedy is that the world discounts what it doesn't understand. The less you know about yourself, the cheaper you will sell your peace. You cannot build meaningful connection from confusion. Two broken identities do not create wholeness, they create dependency. That's why many relationships fail. Not because love is absent, but because identity is missing. If you don't know your own name and destiny, you will lose it trying to answer to someone else's expectations. You were never created to perform for acceptance. You were created to express your assignment. That is why your value does not decrease when people stop applauding. The applause never made you valuable. It only revealed who could recognize your value. And when someone pulls away, you no longer panic. Why? Because their absence does not alter your essence. You know who you are with or without their presence. You understand that identity is not seasonal, it is eternal. Your worth is not attached to who stays. It is anchored in who you've become. So hear me, my friend. Before you attach, affirm. Before you promise, perceive. Before you commit, confirm. Make sure that the you entering the relationship is complete, not searching for completion. Because the greatest gift you can bring into any connection is not your attention, it is your wholeness. When you know who you are, you can love without losing yourself. You can give without becoming empty. You can walk away without feeling broken. Because your identity is not up for negotiation. It is the foundation of your dominion. Never forget this. Attachment without identity is bondage. But identity before attachment is freedom. When you are grounded in who you are, rejection becomes redirection and loneliness becomes leadership. You are no longer seeking worth. You are walking in it. That is the power of self-knowledge. That is the beginning of emotional dominion. And that is where peace truly begins. Not in another's arms, but in your own awareness of purpose. When you know who you are, you can love without losing yourself. You can give without becoming empty. You can walk away without feeling broken. Because your identity is not up for negotiation. It is the foundation of your dominion. That is the power of self-knowledge. That is the beginning of emotional dominion. And that is where peace truly begins. Not in another's arms, but in your own awareness of purpose. Let me tell you something. Your reaction reveals your ruler. If anger rules you, anger will speak for you. If fear rules you, fear will make your decisions. But if wisdom rules you, peace will answer every storm. The mark of a leader is not seen in how loud they shout, but in how quietly they think before they act. When someone pulls away from you, your first reaction might be to chase, to defend, to explain, or to prove. That's the human impulse, the desire to control outcomes. But listen carefully. You cannot lead what you're trying to control. Leadership doesn't chase validation. It chooses direction. When you react, you become a slave to another person's behavior. But when you respond, you remain master of your own. The wisest man once said, "He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit is greater than he who conquers a city." You see, anyone can conquer a city, but not everyone can conquer themselves. Emotional control is greater than physical strength, because when you can control what happens in you, what happens around you can no longer destroy you. Let me explain it this way. Your emotions are like horses, powerful, passionate, full of potential, but without training, they'll throw you off course. You must learn to bridle them, to guide them, to make them serve your purpose instead of sabotage your peace. Emotions are wonderful servants, but terrible masters. Reaction is a servant to circumstances. Response is a servant to purpose. The person who reacts lives from the outside in, always waiting for life to decide how they feel. But the person who responds lives from the inside out, deciding how to feel before life even speaks. That is why the calm person is not weak. They are strategic. The stillness of a disciplined mind is not silence of emotion. It is the control of energy. The calm mind is power under authority. It is strength that refuses to waste itself in noise. Look at nature. The eagle doesn't waste energy chasing the crows that peck at it. It simply rises higher. The higher it flies, the thinner the air becomes, and the crows can't follow. That's the secret of self-control. You don't fight distractions at their level. You elevate your focus. When you learn to rise above reaction, you become unshakable. The opinions of others may swirl around you, but they can no longer dictate your peace. The noise of this world may scream for your attention, but you decide where to invest your energy. That is leadership. That is dominion. Hear this truth. Reaction is emotional slavery. Response is spiritual freedom. One says, they made me angry. The other says, I chose peace. And the moment you choose peace intentionally, you have already won the battle of the mind. So when someone withdraws, when a friend grows cold, when life surprises you with silence, don't react. Don't rush to fix what may not be broken. Don't let panic become your teacher. Pause, breathe, recenter. Ask yourself, what is this really teaching me? Because behind every trigger is a truth about yourself waiting to be discovered. You must learn the art of the pause. The pause is where wisdom lives. The pause is where clarity is born. It's the sacred space between feeling and action, the space where leaders are made. People who react destroy peace. People who respond restore it. So today, I want you to remember this principle. The way you manage your moments determines the measure of your maturity. Don't let emotion make permanent decisions in temporary storms. Control your thoughts, and your thoughts will control your words. Control your words, and your words will control your world. When you react, you become part of the storm. When you respond, you command it. And that, my friends, is the posture of a true leader, the ability to stay calm in confusion, to stay poised in pressure, and to stay consistent when life becomes uncertain. The person who can master that can master anything. My friends, the highest form of leadership is not leading others. It is leading yourself through pain, through pressure, through disappointment, through silence. Because if you cannot lead yourself, you cannot lead anyone else. Leadership begins with emotional discipline. Emotional discipline is the ability to stay steady when everything around you shakes. It is the power to remain composed when you are criticized, to stay kind when you are misunderstood, and to keep your focus when you are ignored. That is not weakness, that is strength under control. You see, every emotional reaction is an opportunity to prove who rules your inner world. Leadership is not proven in public applause, but in private restraint. How you respond in hidden moments reveals your real maturity. Everyone looks powerful until pressure shows up. Pressure exposes whether your peace is built on emotion or on principle. So let me give you a truth to remember. The discipline of emotion is the foundation of direction. If you cannot discipline how you feel, you cannot direct where you go. Your feelings are indicators, not dictators. They show you where you are, but they are never qualified to decide where you're going. When you let emotions lead your life, you become a passenger on your own journey. You give your peace to circumstances, your confidence to comments, your focus to frustration. But when you discipline your mind, you become the driver, not tossed by the winds, not shaken by storms, but guided by conviction. Let me show you the pattern of discipline. Pause, perceive, pivot. 3 simple steps that separate the reactive from the wise. First, pause. Stop before emotion decides for you, because what you do in seconds can take years to repair. The pause is the space where the Holy Spirit whispers truth louder than anger. Second, perceive. Ask yourself, what is this moment teaching me? Every situation is a classroom if you listen long enough. And third, pivot, turn the emotion into energy for growth. Don't waste pain. Convert it into progress. This is what emotional leadership looks like. Converting hurt into wisdom, turning rejection into revelation, transforming setbacks into strategy. Every leader who has ever succeeded mastered this law. Joseph mastered it in prison. David mastered it in exile. Jesus mastered it on the cross. The greatest leaders are not those who never felt pain, but those who never let pain make their decisions. That's why I say you cannot have dominion without discipline. Dominion without discipline becomes destruction. The undisciplined mind is like a city. Without walls, every emotion becomes an invader, every thought a thief. But when discipline guards your gates, peace becomes your fortress. So let me give you a truth to remember. The discipline of emotion is the foundation of direction. If you cannot discipline how you feel, you cannot direct where you go. Your feelings are indicators, not dictators. They show you where you are, but they are never qualified to decide where you're going. You must reach a place in life where peace is your default response. That's when you know you've matured. When your calm becomes your shield. When you can smile while misunderstood. When you can stay patient when ignored. When you can choose silence over proving your point. That's emotional leadership. It's authority expressed through stillness. Remember, you cannot calm the storm if you are the storm. If you want to influence peace in your home, in your work, in your relationships, it begins with the peace you carry inside. You teach others how to treat you by how you manage yourself. When you can stay disciplined in emotion, you become a thermostat, not a thermometer. You set the climate instead of reflecting it. So today, I challenge you to take leadership over your inner world. Guard it, guide it, govern it. Every emotion is a servant. Assign it properly. Let joy serve gratitude. Let sadness serve reflection. Let anger serve justice. But never let any of them sit on the throne. The moment you master that, you rise above the average. Because while others are reacting, you'll be reasoning. While others are panicking, you'll be planning. While others are quitting, you'll be growing. That is emotional leadership. That is dominion in action. And when you learn to live this way, nothing outside of you will ever have the power to destroy what's inside of you again. You see, every emotional reaction is an opportunity to prove who rules your inner world. Leadership is not proven in public applause, but in private restraint. How you respond in hidden moments reveals your real maturity. Everyone looks powerful until pressure shows up. Pressure exposes whether your peace is built on emotion or on principle. Never forget this. Attachment without identity is bondage. But identity before attachment is freedom. When you are grounded in who you are, rejection becomes redirection and loneliness becomes leadership. You are no longer seeking worth. You are walking in it. That is why emotional dependence is so dangerous. It makes you vulnerable to manipulation. When you do not know your value, you will let anyone decide your price. And the tragedy is that the world discounts what it doesn't understand. The less you know about yourself, the cheaper you will sell your peace. Boundaries are not walls of fear, they are gates of wisdom. A wall keeps everyone out. A gate lets the right ones in. Boundaries are the doors through which only purpose is allowed to enter. That's why you must define your gates emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Let's start with emotional boundaries. You are not responsible for managing other people's moods. Stop absorbing their storms. You can care deeply and still refuse to carry what isn't yours. Love does not mean losing yourself to save someone who refuses to swim. Compassion without boundaries is self-destruction in disguise. Then there are time boundaries. Your time is your life measured in hours. Every minute you spend is a piece of your destiny you can never retrieve. That's why time is sacred. You cannot be everywhere doing everything for everyone. Even Jesus withdrew from the crowds to restore his strength. Time without boundaries produces burnout, and burnout produces bitterness. Learn to say no without guilt. Every no to distraction is a yes to destiny. And finally, there are value boundaries. Never negotiate your principles for the sake of peace. Compromise may buy you approval, but it will cost you integrity. True peace is not found in pleasing people. It's found in protecting your purpose. Some people will only respect you when your silence refuses to tolerate their disrespect. Hear me well. Boundaries are not selfish. They are strategic. They are how wise people stay effective, how leaders stay focused, how lovers stay healthy. Boundaries preserve capacity. You cannot pour into others when your cup is cracked. You cannot lift others when your own foundation is crumbling. Protect your vessel because your purpose flows through it. The book of Proverbs says, guard your heart, for out of it flow the issues of life. Guarding your heart is not isolation, it's insulation. It's protecting your peace from pollution. It's deciding what energy you allow into your environment, what words you allow into your spirit, what habits you allow into your days. Because everything you tolerate, you train. If you allow chaos to keep knocking, eventually it will move in. If you allow disrespect to repeat itself, eventually it becomes normal. But when you set boundaries, you reintroduce order into your life. You reclaim your identity, you restore your confidence, and you rediscover your direction. Boundaries are not about control, they are about stewardship. God entrusted you with a life, a mind, a body, and a destiny. Boundaries are how you manage those gifts. Every great leader knows that discipline without boundaries is wasted effort. So, my friends, draw your lines in wisdom. Define what you will give, what you will accept, what you will protect. And remember this, boundaries do not push people away. They attract the right ones. Because those who truly value you will never be offended by your standards. They will honor them. If you allow chaos to keep knocking, eventually it will move in. If you allow disrespect to repeat itself, eventually it becomes normal. But when you set boundaries, you reintroduce order into your life. You reclaim your identity, you restore your confidence, and you rediscover your direction. So learn to speak the language of self-respect, the language called no. Because every no built on principle becomes an invitation for peace to enter. Boundaries are not the end of love. They are the beginning of self-leadership. And self-leadership, my friends, is the true definition of dominion. My friends, let me tell you something that will set you free. Rejection is not the end of your story. It is the refining of your soul. What you call rejection, heaven often calls redirection. What you perceive as loss is sometimes the classroom of transformation. You see, life is not only measured by what you receive, but by what you can release. There are moments when God allows doors to close, not to punish you, but to position you. Because the truth is, if every person stayed, if every plan succeeded, and if every path remained open, you would never grow beyond your comfort. Rejection, my friends, is often the fire that purifies your motives. It burns away the false attachments, the hidden insecurities, the silent dependencies you didn't even know you had. It's the storm that strips the tree so that only what's rooted remains. When people walk away, when opportunities dry up, when silence replaces applause, it is not the death of destiny, it is the revealing of strength. Hear this carefully. You cannot be refined without fire. Gold is not made pure by comfort, it's made pure by heat. Diamonds are not formed in light, they are forged under pressure. And your character is not proven by approval, it's proven in rejection. The very pain you try to avoid is often the tool God uses to shape you. So instead of asking, why did they leave? Ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of saying, why me? Say, what is this making me? Because pain becomes productive when you interpret it through purpose. Every disappointment carries a deposit, a hidden treasure of wisdom, maturity, and resilience waiting to be discovered. Let me give you a principle that will change your outlook forever. You grow more in subtraction than in addition. When God removes something or someone, it's because he's about to refine your focus. When he subtracts comfort, he multiplies clarity. When he prunes your branches, he's preparing you to bear more fruit. Some people had to reject you so you could remember your source. Some doors had to close so you would stop knocking on man's approval and start listening to heaven's assignment. Some relationships had to fade so you would rediscover your individual identity, who you are, apart from applause. I want you to see rejection for what it truly is. Not a verdict, but a vehicle. It is a bridge from who you were to who you are becoming. It teaches you that peace does not depend on people and purpose does not end with pain. Let's be honest, rejection hurts. It cuts deep because it questions worth. But pain, when handled wisely, purifies perception. It strips away illusion and reveals truth. You start to realize that your value was never tied to their validation, your potential was never limited by their presence, and your destiny was never canceled by their departure. Sometimes God allows rejection to wean you off approval. He will remove the voice you depended on until you can finally hear his. Because when you stop needing constant affirmation, you start living from conviction. That is maturity, when your peace no longer depends on who claps for you. Let me show you a divine pattern. Pain leads to reflection. You pause, you ask, you grow. Reflection leads to revelation. You see yourself differently. You see purpose more clearly. Revelation leads to redirection. You adjust your steps, guided by wisdom instead of wounds. Pain leads to reflection. You pause, you ask, you grow. So don't mourn forever what walked away. Sometimes what left was never meant to stay. It was meant to teach. Every departure that hurts is an invitation to heal deeper. Every no that crushed you was preparing you for a yes that fits you. When you understand that, you begin to thank God for closed doors. You realize that rejection didn't ruin you, it refined you. It exposed who was temporary and revealed who was true. It burned away dependency and birthed discernment. It replaced confusion with clarity and weakness with wisdom. And the truth, my friends, is this. What God removes, he replaces with something stronger, sometimes not in people, but in perspective. Because once your mind is renewed, your entire life will rise to match it. Revelation leads to redirection. You adjust your steps, guided by wisdom instead of wounds. So stop calling it rejection. Call it refinement. Call it training. Call it growth. Because that's what it truly is. The divine process of preparing you for what's next. Every loss can either make you bitter or better. The choice is yours. Bitterness looks back and says, why me? Growth looks forward and says, now I see. The one who learns from rejection becomes unstoppable because they are no longer controlled by who leaves or who stays. Your mind is like a garden. We've said that before. But even the best seed cannot thrive if the soil is polluted. The same is true of your life. No matter how strong your purpose, no matter how clear your vision, if your environment is toxic, your spirit will suffocate. Let me tell you this truth. Your surroundings are silently programming your future. Every sound you listen to, every conversation you entertain, every habit you tolerate, they are all sculpting who you are becoming. The voices around you eventually become the voices within you. That's why you must choose your company with caution, because association determines acceleration. The law of the environment is simple. Whatever you repeatedly expose yourself to, you eventually replicate. If you spend time with complainers, you'll begin to complain. If you surround yourself with dreamers, you'll begin to dream. Influence is contagious, good or bad. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, not just in income, but in attitude, vision, and discipline. My friends, let me teach you one of the greatest secrets of success and stability. Your environment shapes your evolution. You will never rise higher than the atmosphere you choose to breathe in. You cannot plant the seed of greatness in the soil of mediocrity and expect a harvest of excellence. Sometimes God cannot promote you until you relocate, not always geographically, but mentally, emotionally, and socially. He will separate you from familiar people to prepare you for unfamiliar purpose. He'll distance you from the crowd that feeds your comfort so he can connect you with voices that feed your calling. That's not isolation, that's cultivation. Let me give you a principle of wisdom. Elevation always requires separation. You cannot soar with eagles if you keep nesting with pigeons. The company you keep determines the altitude you reach. Some relationships are not evil, just expired. They serve their purpose for one season, but now they limit your growth. Ask yourself, who around me challenges me to grow? Who stretches my thinking? Who calls me higher when I start to settle? If everyone in your circle agrees with your weakness, you are in the wrong circle. Real friends won't let you shrink to stay comfortable. They'll confront you to become better. Some of you are struggling not because your dream is wrong, but because your environment is, you're trying to grow in a place that rewards comfort and criticizes ambition. You're seeking peace in circles that thrive on gossip. You're chasing clarity while sitting among confusion, and you wonder why you feel stuck. The truth is, you can't heal in the same environment that broke you. Even your physical environment speaks. A cluttered space produces a cluttered mind. Disorder around you eventually breeds disorder within you. Clean your space, clear your desk, organize your time. These are not small things. They are signs of stewardship. Excellence in the visible reflects excellence in the invisible. Understand this. You are not just a product of your environment. You are also a designer of it. You can choose where you spend your time, who you share your energy with, and what atmosphere you cultivate. If peace is absent, create it. If positivity is missing, speak it. You have authority to set the temperature of your surroundings. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is to leave the familiar for the fruitful, to step away from comfort zones that feel safe but keep you small. Growth is uncomfortable, but stagnation is fatal. God cannot fill a space that is already full of noise. Make room for new voices, new mentors, new ideas that align with your next level. The environment you choose is the mirror of your expectations. If you expect excellence, you surround yourself with it. If you expect growth, you'll invest in it. If you expect mediocrity, you'll settle for it. Your environment will always rise or fall to match your belief system. So I ask you today, look around your life. Every atmosphere you allow is either building you or breaking you. Every voice is either empowering you or eroding you. Every space is either feeding your faith or fueling your fear. Choose carefully because your destiny depends on it. And when you find the right environment, one that stretches your mind, strengthens your spirit, and sustains your peace, protect it, nurture it, feed it with gratitude and discipline. Because the right environment doesn't just support purpose, it sustains it. But environment isn't just people, it's also what you consume daily. Your digital diet shapes your destiny. What are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you reading? Every click is a seed. Every scroll is a choice. You cannot fill your mind with fear, envy, and comparison and expect peace to bloom. Guard the gates of your mind, for whatever enters repeatedly becomes permanent. Because the truth, my friends, is simple. Change your environment and you change your energy. Change your energy and you change your results. My friends, real power is never loud. True authority doesn't need to shout. In fact, the louder the noise, the weaker the control. Calmness is not weakness, it is wisdom clothed in peace. The one who can stay calm under pressure has already mastered power. You see, storms are not designed to destroy you, they are designed to reveal you. Pressure does not build character, it exposes it. And in every storm, there are two kinds of people, those who panic and those who command. Those who lose themselves in the chaos and those who become the calm within it. When Jesus stood in the boat while the waves raged, the disciples reacted. They feared for their lives. But Jesus responded. He spoke peace to the storm. The same storm that terrified them obeyed him. Why? Because you cannot command what you resemble. He was calm, and so the storm recognized his nature. You cannot speak peace to what still controls you. That is the law of calm power. The moment you become still inside, everything outside starts to fall into order. The storm loses its grip the moment it can no longer move you. Calmness is not the absence of motion, it is the mastery of emotion. Many people mistake busyness for effectiveness. They think movement means progress. But the calm person understands movement without direction is chaos. When you are calm, you can see clearly, you can hear accurately, and you can decide wisely. The calm mind is the throne of leadership. When you lose your peace, you lose your perception. Anxiety blinds your vision. Fear blocks revelation. But calmness clears the fog so that wisdom can speak. When your mind is quiet, truth becomes loud. When your heart is still, direction becomes clear. So hear me. Never let someone else's storm pull you out of your peace. The moment you allow their chaos to dictate your calm, you surrender control. There will always be people who live in crisis, who thrive on drama, who cannot survive without noise. But you are not called to join their storm. You are called to bring stillness to it. The calm person carries silent confidence, the kind that doesn't argue, doesn't compete, doesn't rush to prove anything. Calmness doesn't chase validation because it already possesses assurance. When you are calm, you are clear. And clarity is the foundation of authority. Let me give you a principle that every leader must master. You can't solve a problem at the level of emotion that created it. If you stay angry, you'll make angry decisions. If you stay afraid, you'll make small ones. Calmness elevates you above the problem so you can see the solution. Think of calmness as your internal thermostat. The world around you may heat up with stress and pressure, but you decide the temperature of your response. Power is not in control of others, it is in control of yourself. When you can command your own peace, you already lead everything around you. So practice calm as a daily discipline. Each morning, before the world reaches for your attention, reach for your center. Start your day not with panic, but with perspective. Choose gratitude over grievance, prayer over pressure, and clarity over confusion, because the day cannot control a person who has already chosen peace. This is why the calm mind always wins. While others are drowning in reaction, the calm person is walking on revelation. While others waste time proving, the calm person is progressing. While others are overwhelmed by the storm, the calm person is steering the ship. Hear this truth and never forget it. Stillness is strength, and peace is power. The world respects the voice that remains steady when others shake. Calmness is not passive. It is the highest expression of authority. It is the posture of someone who knows who they are, where they are going, and who sent them. When you master the law of calm power, you begin to live above manipulation. People can no longer provoke you. Problems can no longer paralyze you. Pressure can no longer possess you. You walk into rooms not to dominate, but to demonstrate peace, and peace itself becomes your influence. So remember this, my friends. Storms are temporary, but character is eternal. The goal is not to avoid storms, it's to learn to sleep through them. Because peace is not found in the absence of trouble. It's found in the presence of mastery. And the calm mind is the crown of a king. My friends, by now you understand that life is not about controlling what happens to you. It's about mastering how you interpret it. Because the difference between reaction and revelation is the difference between staying wounded and walking in wisdom. When people pull away, when situations shift, when silence replaces conversation, you are standing at a divine intersection, the road of reaction or the road of revelation. Reaction keeps you stuck in the emotion of the moment. Revelation moves you forward in the purpose of the process. Reaction says, they hurt me. Revelation says, they help me grow. Reaction says, this is unfair. Revelation says, this is necessary. Reaction, see pain. Revelation, see preparation. Hear me carefully. Every challenge that enters your life is carrying a message from your future. Pain is not always punishment. It is often prophecy. It reveals what still needs to be refined, what still must be surrendered, what still has to be strengthened. If you can pause long enough to listen, even disappointment will start to teach you. The mature mind doesn't waste energy reacting to everything. It asks, Lord, what are you showing me through this? Because when you start looking for revelation instead of retaliation, you shift from survival to sovereignty. You become the student of destiny, not the slave of emotion. Do you remember what I told you earlier? Leadership begins in the inner world. This is where that truth takes root. Reaction makes you emotional. Revelation makes you intentional. Reaction consumes your energy. Revelation channels it. Reaction looks outward. Revelation looks inward and upward. The moment you stop reacting, you reclaim direction. Because as long as you're reacting, someone else is writing your story. But when revelation comes, you take the pen back. You start leading your life again, guided not by noise, but by wisdom. You must understand this. Everything you experience, whether joy or pain, success or loss, is raw material in the workshop of your purpose. Nothing is wasted when seen through revelation. Even betrayal becomes a blessing when it teaches discernment. Even silence becomes sacred when it gives you space to hear God's whisper. So the next time life disappoints you, ask yourself 3 questions. What is this revealing about me? What is this refining in me? What is this redirecting me toward? Those 3 questions will turn every reaction into revelation, every wound into wisdom, every delay into development. Remember, my friends, you cannot control people, but you can always control perspective. You cannot dictate outcomes, but you can always choose outlook. And when your perspective changes, your entire life follows suit. The human mind is so powerful that a single revelation can undo years of regret. Some of you have spent too long reacting to the past. It's time to rise and redeem it. Stop rehearsing what hurt you and start extracting what it taught you. Because reaction changed you to yesterday, but revelation opens the door to tomorrow. Do not waste your pain. Use it. Do not curse your confusion. Question it. Do not fear your solitude. Fill it with wisdom. The quiet seasons of your life are not empty. They are pregnant with revelation. God often hides his greatest lessons in which you least expected to learn from. You must understand that revelation always transforms identity. Once you see differently, you live differently. Once you realize that the storm was sent to strengthen your sails, you stop cursing the wind. Once you see that rejection was redirection, you stop mourning who left. Once you realize that pain refined you, you stop resenting it. That's how mature minds live, not as victims of emotion, but as stewards of revelation. They no longer say, look what happened to me, but look what happened for me. They no longer chase closure from people. They find clarity from purpose. So today, I say to you, stop reacting and start revealing. Let your experiences become your education. Let your disappointments become your discernment. Let your silence become your sanctuary. And above all, never forget this principle. Your reaction may change your mood, but your revelation will change your life. When you live by revelation, peace becomes your posture, purpose becomes your compass, and focus becomes your fuel. You begin to rise above circumstances, walking not by feeling, but by understanding. You no longer just survive life, you interpret it, master it, and transform through it. So, practice calm as a daily discipline. Each morning, before the world reaches for your attention, reach for your center. Start your day not with panic, but with perspective. Choose gratitude over grievance, prayer over pressure, and clarity over confusion, because the day cannot control a person who has already chosen peace. And when you live this way, every pull away becomes a push forward, every ending becomes a beginning, and every storm becomes your classroom. Because the greatest power in life is not to control events, but to perceive purpose in them. So as we close this message, remember this forever. When you stop reacting, you start reigning. When you stop chasing, you start choosing. When you stop fearing, you start seeing. And in that moment, that sacred, peaceful moment, you finally master the one kingdom that rules them all, the kingdom within.